So one aspect of that I wanted to briefly touch on in this khutbah is getting our daughters married. So this applies in any situation, but this is one thing that I wanted to touch with you today, is getting our daughters married. First and foremost, Allah says that the sharia that He gave us, the law that He gave us, the purpose of it is to make our burden light. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُخَفِّفَ عَنْكُمْ. That Allah wants to lighten the burden from you. So cultural burdens can be very, very heavy, right? Like for example, you have a family and you've got 3 daughters, 4 daughters, and you have this cultural standard that the oldest daughter should get married first. Then the next one, then the next one, then the next one. You created this standard. Allah didn't reveal this standard. You have this standard, good for you. But then the second daughter, not the 4th daughter, the second daughter is getting a proposal, and a good proposal. And you say, no, you gotta wait because there's a line. Get back in line, right? And so when you do that, now let's look at it from a Quran point of view. Something came that was halal, and your daughter wanted it. She had the right to be married, and you denied her something that was halal for her. Even the Prophet of Allah was told, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Lima tuharrimu ma ahallallahu lak." Why do you make haram what Allah has made halal? Like even the Prophet wasn't allowed to do that in the smallest of things. This is not a small thing. This is a life thing. And you can devastate somebody because they wanted to marry a person. They had an emotional attachment. They had the thought of, this is the right person for me, and you deprive them from getting married. They end up getting married somewhere else. This person has, deep depression. They have anger towards their parents. Then they have anger towards the religion because now their parents told them, you must obey your parents. This is why you cannot get married. Remember I told you they use parts of the religion? So they use parts of the religion to beat up on this poor girl, and she can't have what Allah has given her the right to have as an individual adult. And that's the next thing I want to say. When our daughters are about to get married, they're not children. They are adults. And adults are going to stand on their own in front of Allah on Judgment Day. You are not going to come in front of your 28-year-old daughter and say, Ya Allah, ask me the questions. I'm her wali. No, she's answerable for herself on Judgment Day. And if she committed a crime in this life, ma'adallah, if she cut a red light, or if she stole money, you're not going to stand in front of her. She has to answer for herself in the court of law in this life and in the court of Allah's law on Judgment Day. She's an individual with personal responsibility. On top of all of that, especially for those of us, because the world is changing, right? Economies are changing. Many people, like in my family, for example, even, it was hard to make ends meet. Everybody worked. My mom worked, my dad worked, my sisters worked, everybody had a job because there was no way to survive. It was expensive. So there are situations where we trust our daughters to go get a job. We trust our daughters to go to the university. We trust our daughters to earn a living for themselves, to be out on their own. You're not standing there at work next to her. You're not protecting her every second. She's taking care of herself. She's carrying herself in a dignified way on you, and you trust her. So that same daughter that you trust to go out into the world, the same daughter that you trust to get her an education, when that same daughter says, I think this person may be a good choice for me for marriage, right? And you say, no, that's not how we do things in the tribe. That's not how we do things in our village. We have a system in place. If your system was so great, what are you doing here? If your system worked, why didn't you raise your daughter in that old system? You recognized something was missing, and you crossed an ocean, and you put your children, I put my daughters into a different culture, a different society, a multicultural, multi-ethnic society, an open society. And now they're supposed to hold on to their Islam, which is tough enough. But on top of that, they need to hold on to your village culture too. This is an imposition. This is a burden that you put on top of them that Allah didn't put. And that, what does it do in the end? At the end, we have to understand what this does. A society that gets destroyed, a society that gets ruined, is a society in which the door to halal gets smaller and smaller, and the door to haram gets bigger and bigger. So haram becomes easy and halal becomes difficult. When earning halal money becomes difficult, then that society is heading towards destruction. When being in a halal relationship is difficult, then that society is heading towards destruction. Now the thing is, the Israelites had done that to themselves. And Allah says when He gave them the book, وَيَضَعُ عَنْهُمْ إِسْرَهُمْ وَالْأَغْلَالَ الَّتِي كَانَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ, that Allah removed from them their chains and the fetters that used to be on them, meaning they were like imprisoned by their own culture. They were making things so hard on themselves because of their self-imposed standards that they were actually imprisoned and burdened and crushed by it. They were crushed by it. I'm remembering even, and I'm sure you have your own examples from your own cultures, but for example, in some cultures, if you're going to have a wedding, it has to be a really lavish wedding. And if you're going to have a meher, that meher should be so big that if somebody hears about it, they fall off their chair, right? Otherwise, you know, what meher's got to be some serious. And then on the other side are people that weaponize some random athar and say, no, 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 you should just give a date or have her memorize Surah Al-Ikhlas. That should be good enough meher if she has iman and taqwa. Stop being ridiculous. This wasn't the meher of everyone. Like we turned the religion into a joke, right? So either I'm going to give her a Kit Kat bar for meher, or I'm going to give her 4 times my life savings, and 30 years later I still am not able to pay the meher. Meher is not a joke. وَآتُوا النِّسَاءَ صَدُقَاتِهِنَّ نِحْلَةً. What we've done in our cultures is we've turned the meher into a trophy. How much was it? How much was it? Like when the wedding happens, everybody's going to say, how much did you get? How much did you get? What's the amount? What's the amount? Oh, now when my daughter's getting married, we better have twice that amount. It's a race for hierarchy, right? So we take something Allah has given that makes life easy, and we've turned it into this way of putting social status and created even more difficulty. Now the guy that doesn't have $80,000 or $150,000 because he just graduated, just got his job, he's either got to agree to this marriage mortgage, or he can't get married. Or he'll agree to it with the intention that he's not going to pay it. Well, it's just a number, don't worry about it. How is it just a number? This is the word of Allah. You can't just make a joke out of that. I'll just tell her later, you love me, right? Can you take a couple of zeros off? Like this is what happens when the culture imposes standards that are so hard that they're humanly impossible. They're unrealistic. And what do we associate with that? We associate respect with it. If you don't have a high number, if you don't have an unrealistic number, then what respect does your family have? وَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ وَلِرَسُولِهِ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Dignity, respect. That comes from Allah. It belongs to Allah. It belongs to His Messenger. It belongs to those who believe. We create these false standards of respect, and then we bury ourselves, and we bury our daughters. We bury them, And then there are other situations, we are now in a multicultural society. And I actually personally believe in the value of marrying within the culture, because families will understand each other. There won't be a language barrier. There are lots of advantages to marrying within the culture, and there's hikmah in that. But there's also hikmah in being realistic. If your daughter is 27, 28, 30 years old, and your own culture, all the men that come for a proposal, that they have a drinking problem, they have a marijuana problem, they have this problem, and that. And then a good proposal comes, but it's not from your country, astaghfirullah, it's from the neighbor country, because we can't accept those because the British drew a line between our border and theirs, and that's from then on, that's haram to consider. Moroccans can't consider Algerians, Egyptians can't consider Syrians. Pakistanis can't consider Bangladeshis, So Malay can't consider Chinese. That can't happen. No. Haram. We have to marry within. Well, you put them in a world where all the cultures are mixed. They're living in a world where haram is so easy. And then a good opportunity of halal comes and you won't even consider it. And the biggest inconsideration here, I told you there's tribal and there's individual. The woman in Islam has the right to suggest who she wants to marry. She actually has that. There's nothing undignified about that. In fact, it's even a story in the Quran. The daughter of the sheikh in Madian suggested Musa alayhi salam when she said, Ya abat ista'jirhu. Dad, hire him. He's a good guy. Hire him. Hire him where? Hire him in the house with 2 unmarried girls. She knew that say hire him meant, Dad, hook a sister up. It's a good proposal. But she said it in a respectful way. A girl proposed to a man in the Quran. And on top of that, the man couldn't yet earn enough of a living. So his in-laws, the girl's family said, hey, we'll take care of you until you're on your feet. Live here 8 to 10 years. Work for me for 8 to 10 years. That'll be the mahar you have to pay. So the mahar was service. The mahar was take care of the family. The mahar was protect the family. That was the mahar. Incredible. Meaning the Quran showed an unusual situation that doesn't fit the norm, the culture. Musa alayhi salam is from Bani Israel. This family is Madian, in Madian is Arab. This was an intercultural marriage. They had different languages. And yet this marriage happens. And it's an unusual kind of mahar. It's an unusual kind of financial situation. Quran breaks these social standards when they start turning into oppression. When they start turning into oppression. And this is something that we have to now, to fix, to really genuinely fix. Our daughters deserve the chance to live a halal life. And it's embarrassing when they have to ask their parents, I'd like to get married. No. Or, sisters writing emails and sending messages like, I've been engaged for 3 years and my father says it's okay, you can be engaged 5 more years. And she's like, I'm falling into fitna. I don't want to fall into something haram. Please allow me to, how can I convince my father? Allah's book is not enough to convince your father. I don't know what to do. I don't understand. Why would you put your child through this? Do you not know what exists at the moment you open your mobile device? Do you not know what exists in the world now? How easy the door to wrongdoing is? How tempting it is? How constant it is? And they're having to beg their own parents to live a halal life? They're having to beg for that? What greater oppression? I don't understand. So if my own daughter came to me, I'm telling you this, if my own daughter came to me and said, I am considering this person for marriage, I'd say, let me talk to him. I'd like to see. And I'll give her, because she's an adult, you know what I would do? I would talk to him. I would do a good full background check and analysis. I'd do my investigation. I'd do my FBI business. I'd do it. And then at the end of that, I'll sit her down and say, here's what I like. Here's what I'm worried about. But the decision is yours. This is your life. In my opinion, if you make this decision, these might be the troubles you might have. These might be the things that'll be easy for you. But at the end of the day, you are an adult. This is your life. You have to live this life. You have to choose this life. And I can give you advice. How much of this decision is emotional? How much of this decision is well thought out? Let me ask you some questions so you can investigate in yourself. But in the end, you're going to have to make an adult choice. If we don't treat our kids like adults, which they are when they're ready for marriage, if we're not going to treat them that way, then how are we going to expect them to raise the next generation? How are we going to do that? We have to raise that, and this is not some new standard that's already existed in our deen. We've just forgotten it because we either become hyper-tribal, or on the kids' side, they become hyper-individual. They say, forget it, I don't care about my parents, I'm going to do whatever I want. And the teachings of our deen and the conditions, all of it is gone. And I'm just going to live a free life, right? And this is the fitna that we find ourselves in. Just imagine, this is not just a conflict inside one family. This might decide literally the population of Muslims in the next 50 years, right? These things might decide that. What Islam is going to look like. Who's going to be filling the masajid? What kind of parents? What kind of marriages are happening when they're fighting against the family to have marriages? Break these social, I don't tell you to abandon your culture. I don't tell you to force marrying outside your culture. And again, even the men and women, they shouldn't weaponize Islam and use this khutbah and say, hey, see mom and dad, that's why I want to marry him. No, but he's on drugs. What do you mean? That's not what Nouman was saying. Yeah, but this part says you're wrong. Right? So no, there's a problem. We can't, I don't bless it. I don't agree with it. This is a problem. He's got a criminal record. He's got this problem. He's got this problem. There's serious concerns here. So I'm not in agreement. A father has a right to say that too. He has a right to say these are realistic problems with which I have to say that this is not a good decision. I'm not endorsing it, But those are, again, at the end, conversations you have to have with your children as adults, as responsible individuals. They are responsible to Allah. They are responsible on Judgment Day. We're not going to be able to carry their burden. However, I fear, and you should fear, that if I stop my children from the doorway to halal, I stop them. And then they fall into fitna. Then they will answer to Allah for their wrongdoing, but I will also answer to Allah for stopping what was right. I will be answerable to Allah. I may think I have full 100% authority over my child, my daughter. I don't have authority over Allah and His book. I don't get to make haram what Allah has made halal. At least I should give it a serious, honest consideration. May Allah Azza wa Jal soften the hearts of parents towards their daughters and daughters towards their parents. May Allah Azza wa Jal allow our daughters to find good spouses and strengthen our families so we're able to raise a much stronger, much more mature, much more just generation of Muslims that can bring the light of this Quran and the teachings of this Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the entire world. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Quran al-Hakim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikr al-Hakim.